Welcome back to Mr. Wicklam's virtual math classroom, where today what we're going to be talking about is dividing decimals by 10. Now we've multiplied decimals by 10 or multiples of 10, and what we're going to do is we're going to do the division, which is the opposite of multiplication. With that being said, I would like to show you that this block right here represents one whole. So when we're looking at the blocks, the base 10 blocks, we're looking at the 100 block because this has 100 squares. That represents 1. This here represents tenth because this is a tenth of this. Okay? Because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 little cubes. This has 100, so it is a tenth. This is the small little cube, and that represents a hundredth, as I have written with the decimals. With that being said, we can now move on and we can actually do some division by 10. If I take one whole and I divide it by 10, so what I'm doing is I'm actually taking this whole and I'm dividing it up by 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight one of these. Because what this is, the highlighted one is a tenth. Okay, because what I've done is I've taken a whole and now I've divided it by 10. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So what I've done is I've actually just divided it up into separate tenths. Okay, or a tenth right here. And so when I do that, what I'm doing is what I'm saying is if I take whole, this whole, I divide it by 10, this is what I actually get. I am left with a tenth. It's like taking a whole pizza. Imagine a whole pizza that has not been cut up yet. Okay? So you have this fresh pizza, maybe you just pulled it out of your oven, or maybe it's been delivered, and you told them not to cut it. And then what you did is you took the pizza cutter and you sliced it into 10 pieces. Okay? That's what we just did here. We sliced it into 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what happens is that when you divide it by 10, you have now cut that pizza into 10 slices. So if you want a piece, you get 1/10 of that. That's what it means when you divide it up by 10. Okay, so imagine you had 10 friends, you took a whole pizza, and you get a tenth. That's what we're doing. We're dividing that one whole into 10 parts. So when we write this as a decimal, it went from 1.0 equals 0.1. So what we're doing, guys, is we're actually taking that decimal and we're moving it over one spot to make the number smaller to 0.1. Okay? Let's take a look at it in a different way. I have a tenth and I want to divide it by 10. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm taking this tenth and I'm taking it apart. Imagine it comes apart piece by piece. Okay, so what I'm left with is I'm left with one of these. Each one of these equals, so this would be this right here, right? Because it's just a little cube that's stacked one on top of each other 10 times. And so what I get is I have 10 groups, so I'm going to divide it and I'm going to rip it apart. So this would go here. The next one would go here. Here's the next one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight them as I go. So here's number 4 right here, number 5, number 6, number 7, maybe I'll number them too, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I got number 7 put in right there. I get number 8, and it goes here. I get number 9, and it goes here, and I have number 10, and it goes right there. And so all I'm doing is I'm just dividing this 10th block into 10 little ones blocks. So what do I actually get? Well, when I have decimal 01, so I can say decimal 01 divided by 10 equals, well, you know that each one of these is, if I look up here, each one of these is actually 1,000th. So a 10th divided by 10 gives me 0.01 or 1,000th, because all I did is I took that decimal and I moved it over one place to make decimal 01. So we have a rule. The rule is when you divide by a multiple of 10, you move the decimal the amount of zeros this should be you divide by, okay, key point, the amount of zeros you divide by to the left. Okay, so when you divide by a multiple of 10, you move the decimal, I'm going to highlight it, you move the decimal, the amount of zeros you divide by, to the left. Okay, it's like that Beyonce song, to the left, right? You guys know it. Bad impression, I know, I apologize, but that's your Wednesday morning laugh, if you will. To the left, okay? That Beyonce song, you move it to the left. Let's try it. Let's test it. Let's see if it works. Okay? So, multiple of 10, you move the decimal, the amount of zeros you divide by, to the left. Okay? So, how many zeros do I have in 10? Well, I have 1. So, I'm going to move the decimal 1 place to the left. 1. And what I end up with is I actually end up with decimal 02. Okay, all I'm doing is I'm moving the decimal, the amount of zeros I divide by, to the left. I have 1 0. The decimal in 3 would actually be behind it, and because 3 is just in the ones column, and so the decimal would be behind it, then you'd have tenths, then you'd have hundreds. So I'm just going to move it 1. So I have 3 wholes, I divide it by 10, all of a sudden I have decimal 3, or 3/10. Okay, same thing, decimal 8. I'm going to move it, actually I'm going to move it 1 more out. So now I have a decimal here, but I have a gap. Well, you fill the gap with the 0, right? Because now all of a sudden your 10th spot, 10th is vacated, now you have hundredths. So what you have is decimal 0.8, or 8 hundredths. Okay? Again, I have 10. What's my rule say? Multiple of 10. You move the decimal, the amount of zeros you divide by, to the left. I'm dividing by 1 0. I move my decimal 1 spot to the left. I end up with 1.97. Now, we're going to shift gears. We're going to go to 100. How many zeros are we dividing by now? 2. 1, 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the decimal 2 spots to the left, and I get decimal 154. Okay? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Last but not least is the thousand. Again, we're going to move the decimals, the amount of zeros you divide by, to the left. So how many zeros are there? There's 1, 2, 3. So you have 3 zeros altogether. So how many spaces are you going to move the decimal? That's for you to decide, and that's for you to write down in your Google Docs questions. Okay? That is dividing decimals by 10. Remember the rule. When you divide by a multiple of 10, You move the decimal, the amount of zeros you divide by, to the left. Because when you move it to the left, what is happening is that your number is getting smaller. And that's what happens when we divide. If I have 10 mints and I want to give each person a mint and I have 10 friends, then I'm giving each one 1. Okay? I had 10 and I'm left with 1 because I'm one of the people and I have 9 other friends and I share it. And that's what happens with dividing. The number always gets smaller. So if you have 3 and you're dividing by 10, that number is getting smaller. So smaller than 3 has to go into the tens. That's why it's crucial that you move to the left so that the number gets smaller. Alright, that's dividing decimals by multiples of 10. This is Mr. Wicklum signing off.